Hello everybody, this is Gareth Cahoon Speaks back here with another video. This one here is scaremongering at its best. Gulf states unable to ship fertilizer ingredients posing potential threat to food supply. Unable, under fire from Iran, Gulf states are crucial to worldwide food fertilizer production. No less significant than the current war impact on the energy are the repercussions it is about to have on the food chain supply. First for the countries under attack and then its ripple effects around the globe. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, though, through which most or more than a third of the world's fertilizer supply is exported, comes at the start of the spring planting season. Two potential food supply crises are occurring simultaneously. Gulf states are unable to import food and they are also unable to export the ingredients necessary to produce fertilizer. The GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, is definitely dependent on important food, but that is somewhat replaceable in small quantities, like trucking products through Saudi Arabia to GCC states, said Yigal Newman, professor of finance and fintech at Hebrew University. The second mechanism is actually the opposite direction because signature agriculture around the world is dependent on fertilizer, Newman told All Israel News. Food supplies are going to be affected, but the horizon for that is a little bit longer than for energy. Farmers around the world are watching this with growing alarm. The timing of the conflict is particularly bad for global agriculture, as many regions that depend heavily on Arabian Gulf urea supplies are about to begin their fertilizer and urea application season. World Fertilizer magazine warned in a 10th of March article, Gulf nations are responsible for nearly half of worldwide urea exports and 30% of ammonia exports to ingredients and fertilizer. Major global exporters of these items are Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. Because these products are essential for crop production, disruptions in the region can influence fertilizer availability and prices well beyond the Middle East. The American Farm Bureau Federation said these products would normally exit the region through the Strait of Hormuz, the only maritime entry point into the Persian Gulf and currently closed by Iran. Agriculture production around the world relies on fertilizers coming out of the Gulf, and right now they are not coming out, Newman said. So around the world, North Africa, for example, Africa's agricultural cycle is dependent on fertilizers, some of which are going to be sourced from the Persian Gulf. In absence of that could spell trouble. Timing is critical. Because of the agriculture clock, you can't just push the button because the natural cycle has to be adhered to, Newman said. Higher food prices. Is it a coincidence that energy plants in the Gulf, for instance, one in Qatar that burns natural gas to produce fertilizer components, were attacked between an inability to produce and export these materials? The economic strain on these nations could complicate alliances. Qatar is a big exporter of fertilizer. Fertilizers traditionally go in hand with natural gas production, Newman explained. That will have a long-term effect on the supply and prices. If certain foods are expensive in the next year, that should not be a great surprise, Newman said. To the extent that some type of food production is going to be affected by a lack of fertilizer, the price of that food will be higher. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz will impact the world's access to fertilizer, which will increase the costs of fertilizer, which will increase the costs of food production, UN's General Spokesman Stephanie Juraric emphasized in a report issued this week. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development noted that when gas prices go up, fertiliser prices often go up too. The report also estimated that access to fertilisers may worsen for some of the poorest countries, many of which are in Africa, including Sudan, Tanzania, and Somalia. Eventually, price increases will spread to markets worldwide. Robert Kiyosaki, entrepreneur and author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, outlined in social media post exactly how this reaches every person on the planet. Iran war, the Hormuz disruption, fertilizer shipments blocked, farmers reduce crop applications, harvests fall, food prices rise, central bank raises rates, borrowing costs up, economic growth slows, you pay more for everything, he wrote. The chain starts in a 21-mile straight, it ends in your shopping cart. With the Gulf face food security, in in the opposite direction, food imports are not getting into the GCC. More than 70% of GCC food items are imported through the Strait of Hormuz. According to the article in Reuters, this could be the biggest food security challenge since the 2008 global food crisis that the Gulf states are facing. The United Arab Emirates imports 80 to 90% of its food, Saudi Arabia 80%, and Kuwait 95%. However, the GCC nations all have strategic reserves of food supplies that can last several months. This is not something created in a moment, but a result of many years of preparation. Fawzi Behzad, founding chief executive of the Bahrain Stock Exchange, was quoted by the Middle East Broadcasting Network (MBN). Concerns about food supplies are not limited to wartime, but extend to all types of crises and disasters, including natural ones. The national UAE-based news outlet reported that the nation hopes to reap the lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic when shipping was curtailed. In 2024, the UAE launched the Emirates Initiative in a bid to strengthen its agriculture sector and ensure sustainable food security. In Israel, farms are under a different threat, an inability to tend to farms in the north, which is under heavy missile fire by Hezbollah. While the impact on food supplies may be a secondary effect of the conflict, Newman said it is important not to ignore the disruptions now unfolding and their eventual impact on the global economy. Well, this sounds like doom and gloom, but as we all know, food doesn't need fertilizers to grow. All it needs is a bit of water and a bit of fertilizer, and that can be used by using various types of animal waste, meaning cow dung or sheep dung or whatever. There's always other options, so I wouldn't worry too much, but it'll be just like the oil and the gas. There's no rumour of shortage, but the suppliers are raising the price anyway, which is shame on them. It's exactly at these times that they should be lowering the price to the best they can to service the people who are their customers all year round, instead of stiffing them whenever they get the chance. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. It's a bit of scaremongering in my opinion. Shalom, Maranatha, and Hallelujah.